All right, welcome back to American Sports Broadcasting, everybody. Sorry we've been gone for quite a while here, but school got a little busy. Distance was an issue. We were not in the same city for a while, and then we got kind of into the dark zone of sports where not a
Yes.
whole lot really happens. But we are now back, and so Brian, let's just recap what we missed while we were taking a break.
Well, we missed a lot of big sporting events. So we missed the college football national championship where we saw Clemson just fall apart. It was a different team. They had many chances to beat Alabama, and they couldn't do it. We also missed the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning went on a bright note, beat the
Yeah.
Panthers, which was sort of a surprise in a lot of people's minds.
But really, it was the Denver defense that came to play and shut Cam Newton down, once again proving that defense does win championships.
Right.
Personally, I thought the Panthers were going to take that one, but that Denver defense is just too good.
Yeah, and I think that game showed, Cam Newton's a sore loser. I mean, nobody likes to lose, especially in pro sports, but, he's supposed to be a role model for the sport, and for him to go pout about it is not.
Okay, this has happened a long time ago, so I don't want to get too far into this. But let me just defend Cam Newton here. I love Cam Newton. Disclaimer right there. But it is his. I mean, this game is literally his life. It is what he is paid to do. It is what his life is centered around, and he plays like he's the best. He thinks he's the best because he is one of the best for sure. And so to have that not work out the way you thought it was going to be, probably since the day after they lost in the playoffs the year before in 2014. He was probably thinking he was going to win the Super Bowl, and to not win, it's heartbreaking, and it's harder than probably any of us can even imagine. So let's not put too much pressure on Cam Newton there,
All right.
and let's stop there.
All right. And then the most recent thing we missed is March Madness, which was crazy this year.
Michigan State losing early.
Yeah, you saw Syracuse make a run trying to prove things to people, but I think the biggest thing was to see Villanova, even though they were the 2 seed, a lot of people didn't, think Villanova had that good of a season, and for them to come out, I mean, they shocked. I think North Carolina. That ending to that game was huge. Marcus Page hitting that what I would call a circus shot. It was amazing. And Villanova coming down the floor. If if you're not going to play defense the final seconds, you don't deserve to win. And North Carolina didn't play that defense, and it hurt me a little bit. I needed North Carolina to win for my bracket to win in a pool, but that's okay. That's I'd rather have a really good game than.
All of our bad season ending takes happened off camera, so
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right, so now let's jump into things that are going on now. MLB season is in full swing. So I think we'll start in the National League. Big news out of yesterday, Bryce Harper, the eighth youngest player to reach 100 career home runs, and he did it on a really special note. That is his first MLB Grand Slam, and it was against the Braves. But by the way, the Braves are quite a disappointment
the
this year.
Braves are terrible.
Yes,
I mean, they're not usually good,
right.
But
And I think a lot of us saw this coming because with all the trades they're making, these trades just didn't make sense. A couple years back they lost Jason Hayward, which was a huge loss in my mind to them. And he's showing, and he showed it in St. Louis how good of a player he is, and now he's showing it at the Cubs. But I mean, yeah, the Braves are a big disappointment this year. I mean, they're 0-9. I don't think they have a hope this season. But a team, that I think we need to talk about are the Cubs. I mean, they are just destroying everybody they play.
well, when they got power like they do, it's tough. I mean, how do you stand against them?
I mean, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, the Cubs. They lost forward. To season-ending ACL and LCL.
Yeah, that was pretty hard to watch.
Yeah, that was rough. But
anytime two outfielders collide,
right, and the thing is, the Cubs, they're trying to get out of that rut, and I think they're
The 100 and some years
right,
run of not winning a World
right,
Series.
and it's their time I think to shine. They started to show that with through their try to rebuild the whole organization. They're really starting to succeed. I mean, they got great players. Most of them are young, so they'll have them for a while. And I think once again, I think we're going to see out of the NL, the Central being the top division. I mean, after the Cubs, you have the Reds and the Cardinals tied at 5-4, Pirates 5-5, and Brewers around out the bottom with 4-5. But I think the biggest disappointing division right now is the NL West. You have the Giants leading at 6-4, and a lot of people talked about the Giants the last 4 times they've won on the even years. So they said this is their year to win the World Series again, and I don't know. I just don't see it. I think actually out of the West, I'm going to make a bold pick right now. I think the Rockies win the West.
The Rockies. How many years has it been since the Rockies have taken?
It's been a long time. But they got the great rookie they got right now, Trevor Story. He's getting.
What a story he is.
I know, right? he's played 9 games and he has 7 home runs and 13 RBIs already.
Wow.
I mean,
that's like the rookie for the Astros. I forget his first name, but his last name is White, first baseman.
Yes.
He has been on a tear. Yeah, he won Player of the Week the first week, but we're in the National League right now. So.
Right. But I think but the only problem right now I see for the Rockies is their pitching. Their best pitcher with ERA is at a 4.38, and that's with 12 innings pitched. Now I know we're really early in the season, so numbers will be high, but that's going to be their handicap. I feel like their batting is good, but I think their handicap's going to come with their pitching. If they can overcome their pitching, I think they can win the West.
But in order for them to do so, I mean, he's got to stay hot.
That's true.
I mean, and being a rookie, sometimes you go on these tears, and then if you start to fall off, and you hit like an 0 for 15, 0 for 20, then not every guy responds the same way. Sometimes they bounce back and they're even better than they were before. Sometimes they just keep spiraling down. So
that's true.
It all depends. It's too early to tell with all of these young guys.
Yeah, and I think another important thing out of the NL is for the Cardinals. Jaime Garcia pitched against the Brewers. The Cardinals won 7-0. Jaime Garcia had a 13 strikeout game, and a lot of people thought it was a bad decision on the Cardinals' part to pick up his option of $11.5 million for a guy who was injured for about half the season. But I think it was a good pickup on their part. The Cardinals need to build their pitching staff over again. That's how they won in 2011. They had a strong bullpen and good starting pitchers. I think the bats are there, but it's all going to come down to the pitching. And I think, having Jaime Garcia on the rotation is definitely going to be good for them.
They've been just kind of plagued with injuries overall the last couple of years. Their catcher last year, who many thought was one of the best catchers, at least in the National League, and some thought in the whole MLB, and he went out really pretty early on.
Yep.
And, yeah, tough luck for them.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah, but, Molina, he's back. And, all the guys are back from their injuries. Let's hope that the Cardinals stay out of the injury bug and can do good in the Central.
All right. Anything else you got from the National League?
I don't think so. Let's jump to the AL.
All right, so the American League, we'll start off in the AL West. I'm actually going to start off with the team at the bottom of the division, the Houston Astros. Don't let their record fool you. They're looking pretty good. Jose Altuve, little 5'5", 5'6" guy, he is a star. If you haven't seen this guy play, go watch him play. He plays with fire. He plays with intensity. He's got some pop, man. I saw him hit a home run the other night. It looked like it was good for about 430 feet. I don't know if it actually was that, but it was in that dome. It hit the ceiling on the far outside. That guy's crazy. He makes great defensive plays. Oh, man. He's so fast, too. I saw him turn a single and do a double on a little ground ball into short center field. It was crazy.
Yeah, he's definitely the rising star for the Astros. And, I think he helped the Astros turn themselves around. So he's got to stay hot for them.
And they got more. They got Carlos Correa, who's still young. They got a great right fielder and Springer. Still getting there with his batting, but as a right fielder, he knows how to play well, and he knows how to play well in his park. He's not afraid to dive for any ball because he knows that fence is so close to him that doesn't risk giving up a triple. So that's good for them. And then Kobe Rasmus, their other outfielder, he has been tearing the cover off the ball. And then I already talked about their first baseman, how well he's been doing. And then leading that division is the Angels. Nothing super remarkable about that. They're 5-4 right now, so just something to keep an eye on. But
and something about the Angels. I'm a big Albert Pujols fan, and he's struggling. They're paying him a huge sum of money, and his average as a DH is 1.176. He doesn't have a home run yet again. And a lot of people thought that he was going to get over his injuries and it was going to be just fine, but it's looking like he's still being plagued by this.
Well, he was signed for like a 10-year deal, wasn't he?
Yeah, 10-year, over $300 million contract.
That's the problem with those super long contracts. You don't always know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So we're hoping that he can turn it around.
All right, over in the AL East, we got the Baltimore Orioles, and they just lost. I'm sorry, 2 nights ago, and as of yesterday, before their game, all my numbers for this segment are before yesterday's game, so there might be a little bit different now. But they had 6 guys hitting over 260, and they had 1 who was hitting 259. So they got some good hitters on their team, and they've already got 14 home runs. They are showing some pop early on. Similarly, the Blue Jays, they're still doing great from carrying over the momentum from the postseason last year. They got 6 guys hitting over 260. They got 9 home runs, and they're pitching pretty well too to back them up. So they're doing pretty good out of the East. And then in the AL Central, looks to be the deepest division in the American League this year. We got the White Sox, surprisingly. They're tied for the Royals for first place at 7-2. And Chicago in general, that city has been they've been improving a lot in baseball. And they've got 5 guys hitting over 260, and they're another team that's pitching pretty well. Obviously, you have to have that kind of record. And then the Royals are still doing good, tied for first, like I said. But then we got Dave Island, their pitching coach, has described this year's bullpen as being deeper than last year's bullpen because they've got 4 guys who they think can close for them that they can mix and match and use however they want out of that pen. The only issue I see with the Royals early on is they've had a little trouble this year with hitting with runners in scoring position, but I think that'll come. I think that'll come. Last year they were second in the league for that. So it's just a little struggles early on, I think. But the starting pitching is also an area that I think could be improved. Chris Young, really, I personally think is probably the weak link there. He's a good pitcher the first couple of times, but then after a while they seem to figure him out. And when you only have an 86-mile-an-hour fastball and a changeup, it's a little tough to be consistent with that. So moving on from the Royals, it's a difficult thing for me to do. But then the Tigers in Detroit, they're just 1 game behind. I think they're 6-3 right now. And they've hit 13 bombers already with 7 guys hitting over 260, and they have more who I didn't throw in there because they've only had 3 at-bats or something like that. And again, they're also pitching pretty well across the board. And the one thing you notice as you start to look through all of these teams is that a lot of organizations have really improved their bullpen. And I think that is mostly because Kansas City proved that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And if you can have a lead in the 6th inning and that lead's going to hold, you're going to win a lot of games. And I think the Royals last year when they had the lead in the 6th lost something like 12 games or something like that. And then when they in the 7th inning, then it was about like 5, and then 8 they had like 2 losses. So I mean they're ridiculous. I think that's pretty much all I have for MLB.
I mean, there's one thing you missed. I think it's one of the most important. The Red Sox obtained Pablo Sandoval over the offseason. And while he was at bat this week, he took a swing and busted his belt buckle, which seems really funny and all. But then there was a report from an ex-trainer that came out that says he has a terrible eating problem. Um, Basically said that it's likened to alcoholism and that he needs some real help. And I mean, it's showing in his play. He lost his starting role to Travis Shaw. He's now on the 15-day DL with a shoulder injury. It's very sad to see this happen to a player, especially like Pablo Sandoval. Seems like a really good guy, a well-liked guy when he was at the Giants. And continue that at the Red Sox. But if he can't get it under control, he may not be playing baseball much longer.
Yeah, he's a really solid hitter. He can take pitches the other way. He can pull them for home runs. And the thing that strikes me is he's that big and he plays third base and he is agile.
Mm-hmm.
He can do whatever a skinny third baseman can do. I tell you, you'd think he was Josh Donaldson or something out there. He is crazy, and he does not let his size take him out of the game, but apparently it is a little bit now if he has a disorder such as that. So we hope that he finds a way to get the help he needs and get over this, because you don't want to see a guy like that having to stop playing baseball.
Definitely.
All right. Happy Jackie Robinson Day, everybody. Really just a great day in baseball and sports and really in America. This guy, if you've never seen the movie 42, Jackie Robinson story, highly recommend you go see that. You'll really see all the trials this guy went through. He was a tough son of a gun, and he was good. He was fast. He was a good hitter. I don't have enough words of praise for Jackie Robinson Day. In my opinion, should be a national holiday. Think what you want. That's what I think. And
I mean, I would have to agree with that. I think Jackie Robinson embodies the American dream. Being able to do what you want to do and being successful at doing it. I mean, Jackie Robinson went through everything. His life was threatened. His family's life was threatened. Every baseball game he played. And, people can say, "Oh, it's just a game." Well, for Jackie, it was his life. It was to bring his family out of the shadows and to really show America it's not about if you're black or white or doesn't matter. We're all human beings.
And you have to remember the time too. At that time in 1947, baseball was what you did. You get off work, you go see a baseball game. On Saturdays, Sundays, you go see a baseball game. That is what tied communities together. And when you have a black person start to play, then suddenly you can become a little. If you say, "Oh man, he is doing even better than all of our white players," then you can you just start to see some equality there. And really did the first year that he played, he went from no blacks allowed in the major leagues, and everybody was all totally against it. And then after 1 year of playing, suddenly at least the Dodgers, everybody was okay with it, and everybody was totally fine. And within 5 years, they were almost fully integrated. And the Negro Leagues died out pretty quick after that because all their great players were getting called up. But really, really great man, great ball player, and worthy of our recognition.
Yeah, and thanks to Jackie Robinson, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have players like Satchel Paige. You wouldn't have Roberto Clemente. Heck, you wouldn't have even today's players. You wouldn't have an Albert Pujols. You wouldn't have an Alex Rodriguez. You wouldn't have all these guys.
You wouldn't have Jeter.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't. Most of the superstars we see now are coming from the Dominican Republic and places like that. You would have never seen them. And I still, people can say what they want. They can say now that the NFL, is so big in the United States, but, I still consider baseball America's favorite pastime. It was the first huge sport in America. and and like I said, I think Jackie embodied the American dream, and and taught a lot of people, taught us so much about equality, and we're still working towards that, but he definitely was very brave, very great man, and everybody should recognize his accomplishments.
Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that ball? It went zooming across the left field wall.
All right, well, now I think it's a good time to jump to the NBA. With the playoffs coming up, there's a lot of people saying, the Warriors got it. They're looking really good. They have broken the record for the most regular season wins with 73. And so, I think the Warriors are definitely a strong pick this year. I don't know who can beat them. I mean, in the regular season, no one really showed they could beat them regularly. Maybe a loss here or there, but very tough team.
I think probably the only team that has a shot is going to be the Spurs or the Cavaliers, and I don't think it's going to be enough. Personally, I don't see anybody stopping the Warriors anytime soon with Steph Curry being Steph Curry. I don't have a word to describe him, but yeah.
I mean, and if you look at Steph Curry's stats over the year, 30.1 points per game, 6.7 assists per game, 5.4 rebounds per game. I mean, you call him a superstar. I mean, he's amazing, and and I think without him, the Warriors would not be the Warriors
No,
we know right now.
absolutely not. And also Steve Kerr, a lot of credit has to go to
definitely.
that guy. And I don't know if he ever got back into coaching this year or if he was still sidelined with his own illnesses and health issues, but he is definitely a big contributor to what the Warriors have been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and there are a couple players though that I think they're to watch for. Crazy enough to think, I think we're back at Linsanity. Jeremy Lin has been playing really good for the Hornets, and actually. He has caused in the last 3 seasons 813 fouls when he's driving to the hoop without any flagrants. And it's been shown many times that, he's just getting hammered and they're not calling flagrant fouls. But that just shows how important he is to an offense to get those fouls, to get to the line. He's averaging 11.7 points per game, 3 assists per game, 3.2 rebounds per game. Doesn't sound like a lot, but, if he's driving to the hoop, he can get it to somebody else, and that's very important for a team. So I think he's somebody to watch for, watch for some more Linsanity. I think another player to watch for is Oklahoma City Thunder's Kevin Durant, 28.2 points per game, 5 assists per game, and 8.2 rebounds per game.
Russell Westbrook in there.
Oh, definitely.
It looks like he's angry at the rim when he wants his highlight reel. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the Thunder definitely win against the Mavs. But if the Thunder really want to do something, those two have to be on their game. But it can't just be a 2-man show. They've got to get everybody involved, and they got to be on their game. And I think it's very important for the Thunder to try to make a run this year because Kevin Durant is going to become a free agent. A lot of people think he will not stay in Oklahoma City because of money and anything like that.
To pay him.
As a Kevin Durant fan, as a Texas fan, I would love to see him stay in OKC, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure about that either. I mean, with how much his value has gone up since he first went to the Thunder, I think he's probably going to go to some probably team that's trying to rebuild and has just a lot of cap space available to use on him. So.
Right. And my last player to watch for in the playoffs is Tristan Thompson of the Cavs. Points per game is 7.8, rebounds per game are 9 a game. But when the contract talks were with LeBron James again with the Cavs, it was a big thing for him to keep Tristan Thompson at the Cavs, and for good reason. He's a big presence down in the post, and I think it's very important for him to have strong games during the playoffs for the Cavs to be successful, to make it hopefully to the finals as they hope.
All right. So, are we moving on to picks for the first round?
I think so.
All right. So, my first pick is Golden State over the Houston Rockets. Then I got the Clippers over the Blazers, Spurs over the Grizzlies, Thunder over the Mavericks, and that is mine for the West. How about you for the West?
All right, so for the West for me, I have the Warriors over the Rockets, big time. I think they just take it. Spurs over Memphis for sure. A lot of people say the San Antonio Spurs are an old team, but that doesn't matter.
They're old, but they're experienced.
They're great.
Yes.
They're great. The Thunder over the Mavericks. I just think Russell Wilson and Kevin Durant play their hearts out, play a great game, and definitely the Clippers over the Trailblazers for the West.
All right, then the East, I got the Cavaliers over the Pistons. Kind of hurts me to go against Detroit, but I don't see Detroit coming up here. I'm taking the Celtics over the Hawks, the Raptors over the Pacers, and the Heat over the Hornets.
All right, so for me, for the West, I have the Cavs over the Pistons. Like they said, LeBron James in playoffs has not lost first round. He's 10-0 in the first round, so I don't see the Pistons changing that.
Because it's only LeBron James playing.
Well, no, I'll admit I'm not a big LeBron James fan, but when he's on the floor with his team in the first round.
Well, I think it's not just LeBron though. You got LeBron, you got Kyrie Irving, you got Kevin Love. There's just too many weapons on that team.
Right. I also have the Raptors over the Pacers. Pacers in the past are a good team, but I just don't see it this year. And I do have a bold pick. I'm going to pick the Hornets over the Heat. Like I said, Linsanity is the one to watch. I see him having a great first round and beating the Heat.
But Linsanity versus Dwayne Wade?
Oh, I pick Linsanity.
Really?
I do.
All right, that is bold.
And then I also have the Celtics over the Hawks. I think the Celtics are gonna do just fine and have a good first round.
Hopefully. I'm rooting for the Celtics to go pretty deep. All right, are we into NFL now?
Yeah, I think it's time to jump to the NFL.
All right, so I guess first thing we'll talk about is the schedule is now released, so make sure you go online and check out your schedule for whatever team you follow. I don't think there's any reason to really get too deep into any of that. NFL draft happening April 20th through the 30th. A lot of big things going on there. And Brian, you were just telling me about a crazy trade that went down.
Yes, the Titans traded the number 1 pick to the Rams. In return, the Titans got 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, 4 of which are in the first 2, plus a number 1 and a number 3 pick next year. It's reported that the Rams are going after Jared Goff, a quarterback for California. Otherwise, they're also looking at Carson Wentz. Whichever one is not chosen by the Rams will most likely go to Cleveland at the 2nd pick. The Rams got to do something, with moving stadiums and stuff, but I don't know if this is the way to go about it, and we've seen in the past few years, the Rams and teams like this who are down going for a quarterback, and it's been a bust. I mean, Robert Griffin III was a bust.
Quarterbacks are just so unpredictable because college is very different from the NFL. It happens a lot faster when you go pro, and it's not always a smooth transition. Even if you have a good first year, RG3 had a great first year and really just never could come back from that ACL tear that he had, or MCL. Was it ACL or MCL?
I think it was ACL.
Knee injury.
Yes.
Knee injury. Then we have Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. We're still kind of waiting on them to see. I mean, they both had pretty solid first years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But we're still waiting to see if that's going to be consistent and if they're going to keep getting better or if they're not. And there's just no way to tell, I think, from just the draft. So more often than not, I think don't pick a quarterback overall unless you really know, or quarterback first overall unless you really know what you have, because I think probably the better way to do it is pick them like third round or so, and then just groom them up, and then you just coach them, and then get them to the point where they're ready to go. That's the way I.
Right, and and I think the other thing is, if they go after Jared Goff, I see it as a good pick. He played at Cal, playing in the Pac-12, which was a strong conference. But the question is, was Cal really that good? And when they were winning the games, let's look who they were winning against. But if they go after Carson Wentz from North Dakota, the big question there is, how does playing in Division II football, winning basically every year, because that's what North Dakota does that translate well? I'm not knocking Division II football. We've seen good football players, coming from those Division II schools and so on. But it's a question. Is it going to translate? Is he playing really good against bad defenses, or is he playing really good regardless? And it's hard to say when you're playing in the Missouri Valley Football League. It's tough to say. So my advice to Rams, be very careful. And the trade's already done. It's not nothing they can go back on. But never ever make this kind of trade again. I think it's crazy. They better hope that whoever they choose is one of the best football players on the face of the earth.
No one player in the draft is ever worth that much. Maybe if you have a guy like Peyton Manning and you say you somehow could look into the future and say, I know what this guy's going to be, then okay. But since that's not an option, don't do that, because that's ridiculous.
Right.
All right. Other things in the NFL, rule changes. Couple of big rule changes. First of all, the extra point has now been permanently moved back to the 15-yard line. I like that rule. I think it makes it a little more interesting. We saw a lot more missed extra kicks, not just a freebie. So I think that adds another level of excitement to that game. Their touchback, they're going like college, where they put the touchback at the 25 on a kickoff. We'll see if that really has any impact or not. But I don't know. I kind of like the 20. I think I like return games. I think it makes the game more exciting. They're trying to limit injuries, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, you're playing football. Right. So, oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, we've had that conversation before about the injuries.
Trust me, we're not even done today talking
about
this.
And the way the NFL and college football handles, what football is now and how they play with the new rules and, the targeting rules.
We're
and all that good stuff. So, the only thing I hope for the NFL is that the referees can get a little better from this last year. We had a nice conversation about that early on.
And I heard a great interview from, I'm forgetting his first name, but Peralta, the former head of officiating for the NFL. He was talking about how referees are a lot of times like players, and they've had a huge influx of new referees these last couple of years. And so they have been trying to give them the training that they need, because they are seeing things really fast too. And so they take a couple of years to acclimate to the NFL, just like players do. And so I thought that was a really interesting way that he talked about that. Okay, so moving on. Two things that I am not happy about. They completely eliminated chop blocks. Those are all illegal now. And any horse collar is grabbing at the nameplate and pulling them down is now considered a horse collar. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Let's start with the chop blocks. If you go back to all those highlight films from even 10, 15 years ago, and you see somebody break out for a long run, more often than not, I'm going to say at least 85% of the time, easy, you see a chop block taking out somebody's legs and giving them all green space to run on. And now you can't do that. And it takes away so much. And yes, they're trying to limit injuries, but if you do it legally, you get in front of them first and you hit them at their waist. Don't go for the knee. That's cheap. That's dirty. Mm-hmm. but you hit them at the waist, you hit them at the thigh, you're probably not going to hurt them. And you're going to give your runner a chance to do something. And I remember back, I mean, I don't know what it was like in college and the pros, but in high school, as an offensive lineman, they would teach us to chop block to get the defensive lineman hands down. That probably doesn't work in the NFL because guys are so fast, so agile, they'll just go right around you or over the top of you. But I mean, you're taking away part of the game, and it's been a huge part of the game.
Definitely, and I think it all goes back to the facts, yeah, you don't want to see these guys injured, the terrible horror stories you hear about, how these injuries have, ruined people's lives, but it goes back to the thing. When you go play football, it's a contact sport, there's a good chance you will get injured at least once in your career.
And you're getting paid so much money already.
Right, and so, and I say this all the time, for anybody who is willing to go sue the NFL, the NCAA for, all these concussions and all this other stuff, it's not like it wasn't talked about. You knew it was a risk, and you're getting paid to do it. And the NCAA, they can say they're not getting paid. They're getting free schooling.
They're getting stipends every week.
Exactly. And, and they're being recognized, that you're recognizing your community, you're recognizing your school. You become a college superstar. Not everybody, but you still get that name recognition. They need to realize that. And anybody to sue to say, it's their fault that I got hurt, it's not like you didn't know. That's football, and that's how it is.
And quite often, it's definitely not the organization's fault because you see a lot of these injuries, and it's because they were doing a technique wrong. And whether that's on maybe the coaching staff, if they're not teaching you right, then okay, but it's not on the whole organization. I shouldn't think.
Right.
And then that brings, and we're not even done talking about stuff. The horse collar at the nameplate. Are you kidding me, Roger Goodell? This was your idea, right? I imagine so. I think you're the only one who would come up with something like this. Or Roger. I don't like Roger, if you can't tell. But the nameplate, the original intention of a horse collar is so that you can't grab inside the shoulder pads and rip them and cause whiplash.
Right.
That's the original intention, and now you can't grab the back of the jersey and try to bring them down. But I've seen before where guys with dreads, if they're running with dreads behind, they can grab the dreads and pull them down by that, and it's fine. What?
Well,
Come on.
I think with this rule, it's going to cause a lot of issues because it's subjective. What part of the nameplate? Is it the bottom of the nameplate? Is it the top of the nameplate? And the thing is, then you're going to have referees calling it when you're grabbing at the middle of the shirt. It's going to cause a lot of issues, and basically it goes down to it's going to be the referees, changing the outcome of the game. And it's sort of like the idea of now the targeting in college football, where they'll throw the flag and then they review it, and even if they decide that there wasn't targeting, the flag cannot be picked up. It's ridiculous. It's a dumb call, and and it's so subjective. It's such a judgment call.
And multiple times I've seen it where, especially the one that really comes to mind is Nate Gary for Nebraska versus UCLA, and in the bowl game, the Foster Farms Bowl, where he had the most textbook tackle I think I've ever seen in a game, and they called it targeting. There was nothing else that he could have done better. He put his head to the side, and he got him right in the shoulder, and it's terrible. Terrible. Okay. Last rule change that is noteworthy is now they're doing a 1-year trial for if you get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, they're going to kick you out of the game. And that's just a trial, and that's only unsportsmanlike conduct. That is not just personal fouls. So you can do face masks, whatever, you're still fine. But a unsportsmanlike conduct, you're going to get called out of the game if you do 2 of them. And I was watching I believe it was ESPN, and they said that even in situations such as the Odell Beckham Jr. last year, when he was fighting, I forget which corner he was fighting with, but it was
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But they said that it would not have affected that situation because those were not called unsportsmanlike conducts, but personal fouls with unnecessary roughness and stuff such as that. And I think this rule could be okay. I don't think it's a bad idea, especially if you look at like the Bengals playoff game last year, and they just had there was a couple of guys who just had multiple dirty shots, and yeah, if you're gonna do stuff like that, then yeah, get off the field.
And I think a rule like that, the NFL is trying to change, the culture of the NFL in the sense that, you see all these players, off the field doing all these terrible things, and then they bring it on the field, and I think the NFL is trying to change that, for good reason. You don't want to be known as the league, full of thugs and guys, who do whatever they want, and so I think with that kind of rule, that's what they're trying to do, trying to knock off this stuff, these guys going out there and thinking they can, do whatever they want because they play a contact sport.
And it's not just this. I've seen that they're looking to go over again their rules with domestic violence and also with substance abuse. They're looking to reform all that stuff and make it a little more up to date, I think. And I think overall, I think that's probably pretty good. No, I'm not going to say that. We're going to cut this little bit out. Okay. Last thing about rule changes, and this was not passed. This is a rule that didn't happen. Multiple teams have requested that you can now review penalties and stuff of that nature. And once again, it was shot down, and kind of it's just the way it's been happening over these past couple of years. It seems like the NFL has been trying to pretend like they don't make mistakes and that the referees are not the reason that games can be won or lost, but in some situations they can. And I personally, at being a Lions fan, I've been the victim of this multiple times. But it's a hard life.
Well, and I mean, really though, you're a Lions fan. It's gonna happen. But regardless, I agree with it not being passed in the sense that, yeah, mistakes are made, but I think it's part of what makes the game interesting. If everything was perfectly called, and, they've talked about this in baseball where, teams complain about the strike zone, it can be different from umpire to umpire. And they've talked about almost, they use the K zone, they show it on TV. They've talked about using that in place of an umpire and all this other stuff. I get it. You don't want your game to be held on a bad call. And I understand that. But I think if you take that human element away from it, if you just try to make everything so perfect, then you're going to start having problems with that. And, the games are going to go longer. And it's just, I think.
Well, there's a simple solution to the time frame. NFL, stop doing all of your commercials. My goodness, you know how? I mean, it's a 3.5 hour broadcast, and there's an hour's worth of game in it. So simple solution right there. They're never going to do it because they love money, but that's one easy way to take away some time right there.
Right. So. I think the NFL is making some good decisions. I think they're making some bad decisions. We'll just have to see how this next season unfolds and see what happens. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about it. We just talked a lot about rules. And the games aren't even happening. So
I think we might have talked more about the rules than we did about the baseball, which is actually happening right now.
I think so.
We're passionate about the football.
Yes.
Like the baseball, passionate about football.
Yes.
And then there's basketball.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you watching. Like us on Facebook. Continue to watch our episodes.
like the videos on YouTube.
Yes.
I mean, it really helps out the videos, helps out the channels. Subscribe if you're inclined to watch more. I think we're going to try to be getting videos out every Friday again.
Yes. And, and also, give us your comments. If there's something you want to see or something you liked or didn't like, let us know that too. But, like Kenyon said, we'll try to do every Friday again. And next week, I think we'll have a little college baseball in there, cover MLB again, and probably the NBA playoffs, and then anything else that happens in football or in the off season.
All right, thanks for watching.